What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Wizards Latest. I'm your host and DC sports fan, Ben Robertson, and on this page, we break down all the biggest headlines surrounding the Washington Wizards. So make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Drop your comments with any thoughts you have for me on this video or anything you want to hear me talk about in the future. Appreciate all the support here on the page. Keep tuning in every single weekday. Today, I want to talk about the Sharife Cooper signing. How is that going to impact the training camp roster? I'll move on to giving you my thoughts on the City Edition uniform leaks. And lastly, we are now a month away from opening night against the Milwaukee Bucks. What is one thing the Wizards can take away from Milwaukee in their run here over the last decade or so in this Washington rebuild? Again, guys, appreciate all the support here on the page. And got to give a shout out, of course, to the Commanders. Always feels good to have a nice little victory Monday as a DC sports fan. Shout out Marcus Mariota. Shout out Dan Quinn. And let's jump into Wizards news, of course. Sharife Cooper has been signed to a two-way contract. Well-known name really since he was in high school. Of course, a five-star recruit, committed to play at Auburn, only played 12 games there, dealt with eligibility issues, dealt with injury, really derailed him in college, slipped down to the 48th pick in the second round of the 2021 draft, was selected by Atlanta, only played 13 NBA games with the Hawks, was in the G League for the next few years, bounced around overseas the last couple of seasons. So now an opportunity for Cooper to maybe work his way back into the NBA. Again, of course, going to be on that two-way deal now, fills out the two-way roster spots for the Wizards. Tristan Vukcevic, Jameer Watkins taking up those other two spots. Interesting flyer on a player that hasn't maybe quite shown he, is an NBA caliber guy really so far in his career, despite obviously there being, some talent there. Interesting to see if he can maybe put things together. Again, going to have the two-way contract, so he'll have a 50-game cap for his NBA season this coming year. Of course, the team has also signed Keyshawn Gilbert and Jonathan Pierre to Exhibit 10 deals. We saw them both on the Summer League roster as well. And I believe with the additions of Skal Labissiere and Alondas Williams last month, I believe this puts the training camp roster to a full 21 players. I believe that's the cap for your training camp roster. And I think now the Wizards have hit that. Again, all those additions are going to be, just based on their contracts, G League, mostly type guys, but they're all players that are sort of trying to get back into the NBA or really latch on to a team and an organization for the first time in their careers. I'm interested to know, do you guys think any of those names really have a chance to maybe break through either that two-way or G League status and really earn themselves a legitimate spot in the league and with the organization? You wonder if maybe some trade deadline stuff, maybe even, if some injuries go down, obviously you never wish that, but might create some openings for some of those players. Remember, it's going to be a tough road regardless, and got to also remember you have 15 standard contracts to work with and then those three two-way slots to deal with. And then again, on the two-way contract, you have that 50 game NBA cap. Want to move on to giving you my thoughts here on the City Edition leaks. Obviously, those, at least when I'm recording this video, at least, haven't officially come out. Now, the team I actually saw on Instagram sort of referenced, they posted a funny meme, essentially kind of referencing how a lot of the fan base has seen those leaks, even though they haven't been officially dropped. But looks like they're going to pay homage to those early or 2000s gold alternates. I don't really, honestly, what I saw earlier, I don't mind the gold concept. Didn't really love how it looks like it's going to turn out, at least. It's kind of more of a sandpaper color, to be quite honest, than a gold. I do think it's raised a fairly interesting discussion I've seen just with the color scheme and maybe the rebrand as a whole with the organization. Uh, when I was a kid, I didn't really like the blue and gold uniforms a whole bunch. Looking back on it, I don't know if it's just nostalgia, which, always hits a little bit different. kind of look back and so I don't know. Those were kind of clean. I liked the alternate they came out with a couple of years ago. That was kind of a throwback to the all white. Uh, Blue and gold uniforms from that era. Again, raised sort of an interesting discussion. I've seen a lot of people saying, let's just go all the way back to that era and that style uniform. I do like that the Wizards uniforms match the Caps and the Nats. I know with the Commanders, the nation's Capitals football team, it's always going to be burgundy and gold. That's never going to change. But I do think build some continuity and some cohesion with the other franchises in the city when they have the same color scheme and just kind of builds a little bit of connection there. I feel like brings the fans a little bit together as well, even if maybe you're not a diehard Nationals fans or not a diehard Capitals fan. You're a big Wizards fan, but you can appreciate and still, sort of pull for those other teams and feel connected to them. I do think even something as simple as the color scheme plays into that a whole bunch. Another thing, would love to know your thoughts on down below. But the last thing I want to chat about here today, of course, we are a month away from opening up the season against the Milwaukee Bucks, October 22nd, opening night for the Wizards. One thing that Milwaukee has, I think, shown the league over the past decade, and well, sort of to start off this point, when I was growing up, the Bucks were kind of a middling team at best, if that. And now they've been in the playoffs the last 9 years. Of course, they have a title in that stretch. I know the last 3 years they've ended with first round exits, but they have been a model of consistency and one of the best teams in the league, again, for almost a decade now at this point. And you can't think, or that doesn't happen. They really have Giannis Antetokounmpo to thank for all of that, maybe all of that, if not a whole bunch of it. Obviously, you have to put other pieces, and there was other, really good players helping him on that title run, but none of this success that they've had, it goes down without Giannis. And while Milwaukee didn't quite, stockpile the picks that the Wizards did to acquire Gian or to draft Giannis, and of course, people didn't really realize what he was going to be at the time. And even his first few years, you saw glimpses of it, and then there was a big jump. Was the most improved player, and then took even another big leap again. Um, while I think the NBA and what we saw in the finals with the Thunder and the Pacers really showed us that the league is a lot more team oriented than maybe it once was. I still think you could even use those two teams as a reference. You still need that guy that kind of takes you over the top and is really the leader of your organization and your franchise. And Giannis, to me, in Milwaukee is sort of a perfect example of that. The way he has really just transformed that team since his arrival is super impressive. And with Will Dawkins and co., the plan here, and I referenced those stockpile of draft picks and assets, is to give yourself as many chances and as many swings at finding that guy. You hope you have a couple of maybe elite players already on the roster, but maybe if it's in next year's draft, that super deep class it looks like it's going to be, maybe you find that home run swing. Really excited to see how this rebuild continues to progress. Excited for the future, as I will continue to say here in DC with the Washington Wizards. We'll keep you posted on all the moves the Wizards make right here on the page. So you make sure you've hit those like and subscribe buttons. Drop your comments down below as well for me. Again, guys, appreciate all the support here on the page. And thanks for watching another episode of Wizards Latest.